John Dalton in the studio. Sir, as we were discussing even before the break, that this is very sluggish and almost 3 leaders have been changed. And of course, what happened was Payton Tark Shinawatra had made a phone call to a general in Cambodia, and this is how the mass uprising had happened, and she had to be removed from her post in Thailand. Of course, it's a tourist hotspot in Southeast Asia, but it's now seeing through elections and changes of leaders. What is your observation?
Well, I mean, Thailand has always been a very, very fractious kind of a democracy. There are regular coups. I was there working on a project one time, and the Navy couped the Army. So they're just used to having overthrowing the government. As Norman pointed out, there's a couple of parties, a conservative rural party, the Bhumjaithai, which has always been very people-oriented. There's an anti-establishment party, the so-called People's Party, which is more pro-democracy and anti-democracy to some extent, and anti-military. And the old ruling party, which Shinawatra was in, is also a force. And if you want to look at it in the Bangladeshi context, it's as if the Bhumjaithai party is more like Jamaat. The ruling party, the anti-establishment party, the People's Party so-called, is more like BNP. And the Futai party, which is the incumbent party, is more like NCP in some respect, or AI maybe, or AL maybe. So I think it's important to look at this election as a way of setting the economic conditions in Southeast Asia, because they're a prime competitor for Bangladesh in the garment sector and other areas. They're a big central hub and destination for tourism. It drives the economy in some respects of other countries nearby. But it's again that one telephone call led to the disbanding of the ruling party, and Shinawatra was ousted from party. They have an interim, just like we have here. There's an interim government, interim prime minister. So there's a lot of kind of similarities in terms of how the government is structured. They're electing 500 people, 400 from rural constituencies and from constituencies all over the country, and 100 by proportional representation, which may have been the inspiration for what we're having here. But it's a very fractious political situation. There's always some kind of opposition. There will have to be there will not be a majority election. There will have to be an alliance, a coalition coming out of this. But I think it's something to watch very, very closely in terms of how the vote splits, in terms of informing how Bangladesh might vote on the 12th. If there's a heavy, heavy conservative vote in rural Bangladesh, that may be something to consider or think about when we look at the rural vote tallies that are coming in Bangladesh. It may be a movement towards conservatism, right-wing kind of parties taking effect. So I would watch that carefully, just as a harbinger of what could happen among the voting population here in Bangladesh.
Of course, it is Black History Month, as Norman was saying, and this video of a meme depicting former President Barack Obama and his wife as equivalent to apes is quite very racist. And of course, Republicans are coming out in protest of this issue, which said Republican Representative Mike Lawler said also called on Trump to delete this post, calling it incredibly offensive, whether intentional or a mistake. I know this is not the first time a meme regarding political opponents has come out. It has happened before, of one of the leaders wearing a sombrero, and those memes becoming very popular on social media. So I want to understand from John Dalton, you see the nature of politics in the United States, sudden changes on social media, and how information has become so important in the day-to-day decisions of an administration, of an opposition figure who would be berated by a social media post such as this. I want to know, alongside, how you felt about this and what is the future of this issue, because that video was claiming that the 2020 election was fraudulent. So what is your take regarding this issue?
Well, I mean, let's start with the man whose office posted this. This is beneath the dignity of the office of the President of the United States. This man has consistently been a racist. We've had the Central Park Five, where he asked for people, 5 young black men, to be executed. Subsequently turned out they were innocent. He challenged the so-called birtherism program, challenging the whether or not Barack Obama was born in the United States. This latest one, he contends, well, I didn't know anything about it. That's unforgivable. Black History Month aside, this is just simply beneath the dignity of the United States of American president to post something like this on his social media. I mean, this takes us back 100 years in terms of trying to reawaken the spirit of Jim Crow. I mean, I'm a big Barack guy, but I was personally offended that anyone in the federal government of the United States would depict a former president and a former first lady in this way. It's just impossible for me to understand it. It also is a sort of evidence that there's no bottom with this man in terms of what he will try to do to insult and cast aspersions on other people who he feels steal the limelight from him. He is the center of the universe. He is the hub. Anybody else who is respected and admired as Barack is, except of course by the MAGA fringe that do all kinds of things about him. But I think it's really, as Norman has pointed out, and thank you, Norman, for bringing this out so well, is that the American people really are disgusted by such actions. Even hardcore MAGA are disgusted by the idea that somebody, a president of the United States, a president of the entire population, would resort to such kind of racial direct, not trying to hide it in any ways. This is a direct racial attack on a former president of the United States and a man much admired in the black community. I mean, it was shocking to me. Trump says, well, I didn't see the whole video. It wasn't my fault. It's my communication people. If you're in charge, you're in charge of the whole deal.
Yes.
You don't get to pick and choose which parts of it you're not responsible for. You're responsible for the whole enchilada. And this guy is really displaying his bigotism or bigotry.
Right.
But he has a history of this. I mean, he appeals to a certain segment of the American population who secretly, at home, use these terms that are unacceptable in public and have these ideas. So I'm only hoping that somebody will call him up. And as Joe McCarthy back in the day was called up by somebody as being, have you no shame, Mr. McCarthy, Senator McCarthy, I hope somebody calls him up to his face, because this is totally unacceptable.
Well, on the other side, I understand that this is highly unacceptable, as Barack Obama is loved by many in the U.S. community. And not only so, executive orders, or the years of executive orders, these it came to popularity initially when Donald Trump would sign off on a rhetoric or on an issue that would not require congressional approval.
Right.
And this time around, we have Zoran Mamdani trying to protect his immigrant population in the city of New York. We've seen that federal agencies, federal inspectors of the ICE enforcement, immigration enforcement, they have caused havoc in Minnesota just last month.
Yeah.
And it is good enough for the new mayor-elect Zoran Mamdani signing this executive order, strengthening protections for immigrants. I believe New York is a city run by immigrants, and the mayor itself is an immigrant, as we know. So how do you see this issue of the mayor? Because it's a different approach to running of the day-to-day operations. We usually see Donald Trump signing off on executive orders, but here we have a mayor doing the same for the betterment of the people in his 5 boroughs.
Every layer of government in the United States, whether it's from the smallest little village, a borough, a town, up to the president, issues executive orders, things that they do under their own authority, their own state or local law, or under their own charter. So executive orders are a common thing to do. This is going to be attacked by the Republicans as trying to make New York into a sanctuary city, so-called, protecting the population, protecting certain areas that are off limits. But what this aggressive ICE invasion into American cities has done is set the local police against the federal ICE agents. And this kind of conflict is going to lead to trouble someplace in the extreme. It's only fair that people who are going to court, for example, for an immigration hearing, should be exempt from being snatched by ICE and taken out of the country. It's only fair that people who are doing their job, whether they're in Home Depot or Lowe's or any other kind of department store, should be free to engage in work, legitimate, logical, income earning work for the benefit of themselves and their family, on which income they pay taxes. In fact, they've shown that the immigrant population pays $10 billion more per year in taxes than the cost of the federal government to enforce any laws. So this is, again, an overextension of this sort of rabid MAGAism, anti-Americanism. As you point out, Mamdani is a son of an immigrant. Everybody is a son of an immigrant in some way or another in the United States. My great-grandparents came to the United States, so I'm not a native-born guy. But it's leading to trouble, and I believe, Norman can correct me and he can chime in here, I believe that the continuing resolution for the Department of Homeland Security is being held up on this very, very issue so that amendments can be made to the way that they carry out their business.